Yeah, I think that a lot of hype and expectations have been built up around Keen, and when we think back to the world's top 20, our top analysts all predicted Keen to be the fourth best player in the world, and it is a bit of a curse over the years, but we'll see if he's able to shape things up as we jump into draft.
Yeah, it is time for Champ Select. Flash was on the blue side, ban away Tom Kench. Afreeca Freecs going to kick it off with a support ban of their own. Actually going to take away Alistar there.
So I think the Alistar ban is really important against Sword Art. We saw how proficient he was on it yesterday. During the laning phase, he was the key player in setting up a lot of the bot lane advantages, along with Mujin hanging around that bot side of the map. So Afreeca showing that respect towards Sword Art.
Yeah, I'm going to be really interested to see, well, Aatrox has already taken off, if Urgot that's taken off the table here as well, or if they're going to be willing to give that over to Hanabi. He really did struggle yesterday against Zeros, who was playing the Urgot. He got dominated pretty heavily. He was actually the only person on Flash Wolves who was not doing well in their game yesterday, so maybe wanting to try to grab that for himself, and we'll see if Afreeca denies it.
Now, we are seeing an increase in the Rakan bans recently, largely because the Xayah-Rakan duo seems to be one of the primary focuses for many teams, especially on day one. And by just banning away the Rakan, if the first big Xayah comes out, it means that you're not forced to take that Rakan away.
Yeah, and you've also got to say the three most played here for Sword Art have all been taken off the table, right? The Tahm Kench, the Alistar, and the Rakan are all gone. They do rely on him pretty heavily to be a playmaker, so he could look for another champion along those lines, but we do still have things like Braum and stuff available as well.
Even a Thresh ban here as well, so perhaps Sword Art will be pushed down a few picks, but with the Urgot left open, Flash was actually first pick Kai'Sa, so we'll see what Afreeca Freecs do want to answer with. They'll start things off with Xayah, though. You already mentioned Vedia, Xayah, and Rakan have seen a lot of play so far in Worlds, and Afreeca Freecs will at least get one half with Rakan banned away.
But the most surprising thing here, gents, is the fact that Urgot yet to be picked up by either side. We know that Keen is a player that has a very deep champion pool. Quinn and Jace are two things that I've kind of kept my eyes on as a potential answer to the Urgot in lane, and that's kind of what I feel Flash Wolves are afraid of too. If the Urgot has been left open, to me it feels like Afreeca have something prepared and they're willing to just let it go through this draft.
Yeah, some of the mages, a lot of people talk about being fairly good into Urgot as well. Licorice and NA has played Lissandra, but people have also been using Ryze top as an answer into Urgot that is pretty good, and Keen's certainly comfortable on the Ryze. Does have a very deep champion pool, as you said, and really did heavily prioritize the carries, not afraid to go into one of those carry versus carry matchups.
Well, Gragas was the next pick there by Afreeca Freecs, so Flash Wolves, if it is indeed a bait, they did bite in this phase. So they will take Urgot, and now with one more pick to come through for phase one, looks like back to Sion, which, again, with Urgot already picked, there is some flexibility here, but you have to assume that Maple may be back on Sion once again.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Pastry, he played it yesterday, but you have that flexibility option. You can put the Urgot both mid and top, and Flash Wolves are saying, well, you know what? Whatever you pick, we're just going to put the best matchup possible into it, and Sion is often considered a pretty safe champion overall.
Yeah, and there is also a small chance of it being flexed to support. Some pros have experimented a little bit with that, certainly much less common than seeing it in the solo lanes, but there's a lot of support bans. Sword Art's off those, so you never know.
And we'll see if Afreeca Freecs do take this with Vel'Koz up and available. I believe that's already locked.
Yeah, it's locked in.
So Kuro will take.
And this is a big pick for Kuro. We did see it banned against him yesterday, and it's actually his second most played champion during the regular season. Big comfort pick for him, something that offers a lot of wave clear, offers a lot of harassment, and something that just fits into his style so well. And I think that moving away from what we saw yesterday is definitely much more of what we want to see for Afreeca.
Yeah, also expecting to see Glacial Augment coming out on the Vel'Koz that has really become the standard in pro play. And that can be very, very effective at kind of slowing up and disrupting the frontliners here. When you have an Urgot and a Sion trying to move forward, if you do get hit by that Glacial Augment slow, it really can be difficult to push forward onto that backline.
And now what we're seeing from Afreeca is a lot of jungle bans, because when you're running the Urgot Sion, big bruises, very strong frontline, you're kind of looking for a secondary damage dealer from your jungler. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Kindred ban coming out from Afreeca right now, because with the Camille already gone, things like Lee Sin, Olaf, Kindred, Xin Zhao, these all raise in priority and are all very lethal to go up into the Gragas.
Also got to remember just how good Mujin has been on his Nocturne. Has really been crushing it. It has been his most played throughout the summer split, and that is going to be available, at least for now.
I'll add Talia to the mix as well. Had a great game on it yesterday, so certainly another aggressive jungler he could play, and has had a pretty good showing so far in the World Championships, currently sitting at 75% win rate from the jungle. Flash Wolves, though, they do ban away a mid lane. They took Darius off already, so perhaps trying to insulate one of the tankier people, either the Sion or the Urgot in the top lane, and they'll take away Ryze from also a solo lane, actually, with Vel'Koz picked. But there's the Olaf lock in there for Spirit, I assume.
Wow. That's the big question. Do they put the Olaf top lane? Perhaps maybe they want to put it into, maybe they think it's an answer into the Urgot. Maybe they do want to have it in the jungle.
Right?
Like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It could also be a Gragas support.
I'm pretty sure it's going to just be like Olaf jungle, Gragas support is what I'm guessing, but there's so much flexibility here. You could have Gragas top, you could have Gragas jungle or support. Will be very interesting, but I mean, Flash Wolves were certainly thinking that the top laner had not been picked. The Ryze and Darius are both two answers that are considered fairly strong into their Urgot, so trying to protect Hanabi a bit there in the top lane, and Shen support is going to be the option here for Sword Art. And Lee Sin, you called out as one of those champions that was available, so this should be pretty hype.
I'm really excited for this because now, with the adaptation, I think Flash Wolves are thinking the same thing you are, Azael, and they see the Gragas in support, the Olaf in the jungle, and for many of the junglers I've spoken to coming into Worlds, they often say Lee Sin is a pretty good matchup into the Olaf. He can often match in terms of the 2 versus 2. He offers a lot of team fight value, and he's that extra bit of damage that the Flash Wolves are looking for in the early game.
And last pick is Akali, and that might be top lane Akali.
It is. And it's in the hands of Keen, the carry top laner, the one that many analysts ranked as one of the best, if not the best, top laner at the World Championship. And he has an Akali in his hands. I'm so excited to see this guy play.
Yeah, pretty hype. He has not played it at all throughout summer or through playoffs, so this is going to be his first performance on that Akali, but a lot of top laners have been picking this up as one of those champions that can be pretty strong, especially into melee matchups. Have seen it played into the Urgot, and I do think it can struggle early, but if you can survive, there is always kill potential, especially with gank assist post 6.
Can be perhaps tricky to execute on. We did see Cloud9 play a somewhat similar comp with Licorice on Akali top already. Keen, of course, pretty different class of player, so expecting to see pretty big things. And in general, I'm just happy he's playing a carry instead of Sion this game. On the Flash Wolf side, though, they're basically just playing like an RNG comp. 3 tanky boys, a Kai'Sa, and an aggressive jungler. I think I saw this yesterday.
And a lot of options to roam as well. Sion, his ability to move from mid to bot is extremely effective. And Flash Wolves, I feel they can just stick to their style of trying to put all their resources into Betty, the guy that really did step up at MSI, the guy that has become one of the big carries for this team going up against Afreeca.
And you're going to have to see Afreeca be pretty damn careful about this Shen support as well. If you want to try to play around topside, try to snowball this Akali. If Shen is post 6, that can be very, very dangerous. Obviously, the Sion roams with Stand United as well. There is a tremendous amount of potential for the Flash Wolves to move around the map. Also, a lot of dive on this team with Shen, with Sion ulting in, Lee Sin diving into the back line, and the potential follow-up there for Kai'Sa.
Well, we'll have to see what happens. Flash Wolves and Afreeca Freecs, 2 teams in this group that were poised to finish atop it. But of course, Afreeca Freecs suffered a tough upset loss yesterday. Flash Wolves looked pretty good, but didn't play Afreeca. So this is a pretty big table setup for this group.
It's such a big game for both these teams. You know, as you said, 2 favorites coming in. With a Flash Wolves win, they start 2-0. That is matching the most amount of wins they've had over the last 2 years at Worlds. They went 1-5 last year, 2-4 the year before that. Haven't made it out of a group since 2015. So while this team has a very good international reputation, they have not been able to perform at Worlds in the last couple of years.
Betty taking some harass there. Actually saw Sword Art also pretty far topside. Looking to try and get some vision down. Looks like they do have a ward on that red buff, so it will get a bit of extra info, but just going to trade some wards across the map here. As you can see, Afreeca have already put down their ward here as well. Kuro also trying to wander in, but Maple is doing his best to guard this entrance.
So in terms of how these teams overall want to play throughout this game, for Flash Wolves, we're seeing pretty standard team fight. They do have a strong early game pressure. You can set up a lot of ganks, especially around like mid lane and bot lane with the things like Shen and Sion paired up with Lee Sin. You have setup combined with the damage from the side of Flash Wolves, and they'll scale very nicely. Kai'Sa still considered one of, if not the best late game AD carry currently in the meta, and you have such a solid front to back kind of composition where you just have this big beefy front line for her to play around. For Afreeca Freecs, their composition is a little bit more kind of all over the place. They have a lot more skirmishing at their disposal. Things like Xayah much stronger in the early game compared to the Kai'Sa. Akali at level 6, huge kill threat when paired up with things like an Olaf. And if a Lee Sin meets that duo in the jungle, you're going to have to be afraid. So I'm kind of expecting Afreeca to be a little bit more aggressive with their composition in the early game with a lot more invading of the jungle.
Well, certainly the lane I will be watching at least early on. Keen on Akali this go around. We'll see how Hanabi can kind of do in this matchup. Urgot has been a pretty strong generalist, I'll say. So I like that Hanabi's kind of falling back to something that is default very strong, but Keen is going to hit level 2 early, going to try and harass as best he can, as Mugen is towards the top side, taking this blue after red.
And I think getting the Urgot just is a really smart move here for Flash Wolves. Urgot is such a ridiculously stable and strong top laner right now that it's very hard to abuse this champion. Even a lot of the matchups that are considered to be really, really good into Urgot are fairly even against Urgot, so especially after the performance yesterday that Hanabi had, this is a pick I think that is going to allow him to get through laning phase and have some effectiveness in the team fighting.
Curious to see how Maple does here though, as he's going to kind of have to do what he can, as Spirit is going to look for a bit of an invade. But it looks like he'll just kind of get some vision and take what camps he can. Talking about the Flash Wolves bot lane though, something that we do want to highlight from day one. You said it, Vedius, especially in this game, Betty is going to need to get things done. You can see some of their success early on already.
Exactly. In Flash Wolves, they are a team that often likes to play through the bot side of the map. They do have a composition that can enable this, but yesterday there was so much attention drawn to it, and a lot of it was due to the early playmaking from Sword Art, but we got to draw attention to top lane.
Yeah, here comes Keen, about to get ganked by Mugen. Does land the Q, but not fancying the dive, so we'll just take the harass and leave.
Yeah, and it's not going to be actually too bad for Keen because the wave is pushing towards him, so no chance of it getting frozen on him. Doesn't have to be too concerned. But you can see that Mugen is actually hanging around, perhaps expecting a potential gank and looking for a counter gank there. Or, you know, theoretically, you could try to go for a dive if you can push in all the way to that turret, as Akali without Shroud is fairly vulnerable.
We're also seeing Spirit take advantage of the early strength of Olaf. Often in the World Championship, we've seen very, very early Drakes being taken just due to how much damage you can do, the amount of sustain that you have, and the bonus attack speed that you get, the lower your HP.
And now that they know Olaf was on the bottom side of the map, there is a chance that they actually try this dive. We'll see if they're going to go for it, but Mugen gonna play it safe, just head back to base.
The Shroud always makes it extremely dangerous, as you know, and it's one of those things where, okay, it's not on cooldown right now, we don't want to take the gamble, and I think it was smart from the Flash Wolves to run the risk, but as you said, huge minion wave being set up, the dive was definitely possible, and instead they're just going to choose to back away. But Azale, something you talked about was the Glacial Augment that we saw from Kuro. Both him and Maple have decided to run it this matchup.
Yeah, pretty interesting to see that on the side of the Scion as well. You know, not too surprising. Most people, I guess, do go that on Scion these days. Ever since the E-nerfs a while ago, Comet kind of fell to the wayside, but certainly Glacial Augment has been very, very good. We even got to see it in play, and actually on Ahri, I believe it was GBM brought that out. So have been seeing more and more players experiment with that. You do lose some damage, but you gain so much in the way of control. The slow is so ridiculously powerful once you have your spooky ghosts, and I like to call the GLP the Super Soaker. Yep. It definitely is very disruptive, especially against all these melee champions, right? There's essentially 4 melee champions who could be in your face and can get hit by that slow and set yourself up for that ultimate.
And for me, one of the best things about Glacial Augment on champions like Ahri and Vel'Koz is the amount of setup that provides. Because on Vel'Koz, ideally you want to get those max passive stacks, which means that you need to be able to land your knocker. And the best way to do that is to have a very overpowering or overbearing slow that makes it that much easier. So that's why I'm a big fan of it. And as you said, while what you lose in damage, you definitely make up for in utility.
Mugen did dip bottom, if only briefly, but a nice value Scry's Bloom will spot both these wards around mid lane. We'll see if Mugen sticks around for a potential lane gank, as Sword Art, Mr. Playmaker himself, going to fade towards the left-hand side of the map, but looks like it's time to do the Scuttle Crab instead.
Yeah, and I think on the side of Flash Wolves, they're going to be pretty happy just playing a fairly measured game, a fairly slow-paced game. I do think that Afreeca is going to have to kind of choose their moment where they do start to really ramp up the aggression and start to try to play a little bit more high tempo of a game when you have, you know, this Gragas and when you have people like the Akali on your team. I do think that there is more pressure to be making things happen, to be finding these little skirmishes, finding little fights across the map as you're trying to kind of avoid, I think, some of the straight up 5v5.
And one of the things I often think about is, like, when you play assassins into kind of Bruiser's tanks, it's one of those very, in my eyes, volatile matchups, because when you're an assassin, you often have the advantage over tanks because they can't match you in terms of damage, but you will get to a point where you're just too tanky and they just can't kill you, which is why I think this top lane matchup is really important for Afreeca Freecs. I don't think you have to snowball the Akali, but I do think you need to get her ahead, because someone like an Urgot, we've seen so many times that he's just so naturally tanky without even that many items. And in a side lane, I think it's going to be really important for Keen to be ahead. Otherwise, he's not going to generate as much pressure as they would like with the draft.
And when you show up to a team fight, you have literally one target, right? You can go on the Kai'Sa, and that's basically it for the Akali here. And Kai'Sa is going to get to a point where you have the ultimate shield, which is very, very big. You have the Stand United, potentially a Locket or something like that can be coming through. So there is going to be quite a bit of protection for this guy, and that's why you have to be very crisp about those plays and really make sure you're going for it at the right moments. That Tucson and Spirit and Keen are all going in at the same time, are all executing on those same types of plays.
Well, looks like early TPs have come through for the top lane. Keen back with a Seeker's Arm Guard done, and looks like an early fade here for Hanabi.
Yeah, and that really does tell me, I think, that he is looking straight for kind of the playmaking and being able to go back into the back line. If he does rush for the Zhonya's instead of something like a Gunblade, it's much less about the 1v1. It's about being able to dive into the back line, be incredibly disruptive, potentially even just zone Betty out of the fight.
Well, Spirit is going to do this grump, but Mujin already here with Maple, who's roaming into the Afreeca Freecs jungle. Kuro around the other side as the blue buff does get started up. Spirit pops Predator as Tucson trying to fish with the barrels and get some vision around, but taking some damage here as the Afreeca Freecs collapse, but Flash will sticking together. Despite the 4v4, no blood spilled.
Now, Flash Wolves felt that they had priority in this situation because the bot lane had been able to push up, and Maple was able to roam through Afreeca's bot side jungle. So, with the assistance of Maple, this should have, on paper, looked like a very clean Baron, a blue buff.
That's an early Baron.
Yeah, that's a very early Baron. What it resulted in was Afreeca, they very quickly collapsed, and we even see a bit of a sacrifice from Kuros' farm. Not too much, he's not too bad, but they basically said this build is too important to get in the hands of Kuro, because what we don't want is Maple roaming bot. Remember that we said that for Flash Wolves, they want to focus on getting this bot lane kind of through the laning phase. You can often suffer against Kramer, and if they can, they want to get him ahead. They have a lot of playmaking tools. And right now, this could be Afreeca. Maybe not. This could, Flash Wolves just want to try, Afreeca rather, want to mitigate Maple roaming to the bot side as much as possible.
I don't blame you. Level 6 Gragas with Flash eing forward. Always a scary thought, but Flash Wolves are going to hold on to their cooldowns as bottom lane has been going maybe a little bit better than expected. Kai'Sa generally should fall behind or go even in a lot of her lanes, but being ahead is great news early for the Flash Wolves who, like we've mentioned, are happy to play a more measured game.
Yeah, they're going to be feeling really good about that, and also the fact that Sword Art is going to be pretty damn close to hitting 6. Once you do hit 6 there, it's really going to limit any potential chances for Keen to go aggressive on the top side of the map also. So really, Afreeca then has to kind of get forced into attacking the global. It very much becomes about either you have to instantly kill someone or you have to go to that Shen. And really, it's going to be tough to burst down someone like the Sion or the Urgot anyway. So it's very unlikely that they can really target either of the solo laners.
Pretty incredible amount of global mobility actually for the Flash Wolves between Sion ult and the 2 TPs, but looks like Mujin is back to business. Dark Harvest has been charging off over time, and he's now 6, maybe looking to gank up on the Akali.
Mujin, he has come top a couple times, trying to put this Akali behind. Still not going to see that tower dive. There's still a lot. They're showing a lot of respect towards the Akali and her ability to just buy time underneath the Shroud. But with the priority that they've gained over the top side of the map, this will allow them to move towards the Rift Herald. This won't be the fastest with Elise in, and it looks like Afreeca do have an inkling that this is going on.
And Spirit is actually up 2 levels right now over Mujin. He has just been power farming, and they could actually look for a play here.
Maple, does get knocked up, barely clipped by Kuro. Now going to channel it up, does get the knock up, but the ulti out there as a laser tries to take down Maple, who's forced to pop the watch. Does get out safely for now, but Mujin's still running a Spirit, going to try and take him down.
No, this is actually really measured there from Afreeca. They don't commit because they're respecting the Stand United ultimate. You can see that Sword Art actually backed up, preparing for the ult. So if you overcommit and charge in there as Spirit, the Lee Sin goes in, Stand United comes out, you probably get turned around on and taken down. So smart stuff from Afreeca.
But now the Flash Wolves have been forced back. They lose half the HP on that mid-tier 1, and Afreeca, it looked like a kill there. I thought Maple was going to drop. It was really clutch stopwatch to buy enough time, and then the W was able to come back up so that he had that shield to escape. Maple does get away with his life, but you can see, as you were talking about, Isaiah, that 2-level advantage that Spirit was sitting on, really impactful in that early skirmish. And remember in the draft, we were talking about how in this first 15 minutes of the game, Afreeca will look to try and leverage that power that they have with things like the Olaf and the Akali especially to move into the enemy jungle and try and force these fights. That was the kind of first taster of what I expect to more happen as the game progresses.
Still Afreeca playing it pretty calmly, and Spirit continuing to build some personal advantages. Also, Kuro has finished his first major item, so if he can stop the lane from pushing towards him, Twin Shadows is very good to try and assist Spirit in any sort of play.
Yeah, it really does set up for the knockup, as Vedius was saying very, very well. It's also really powerful just as a scouting tool. Hey, you want to go ward? Pop the Spooky Ghost. That'll clear out the way. You can see if anyone is around, you can then move forward, and does give another way to really kind of scout out those brushes beyond just face checking and beyond that blue orb.
Interesting, the Akali actually started off with the Seeker's Arm Guard and now immediately building towards the Gunblade. I do think Gunblade is like the biggest item spike on Akali. It gives you so much extra burst, sustain. It's like the perfect item for her, but the fact that it's been delayed means that her 1v1 and skirmishing power will definitely be mitigated, but she's done that in favor of having a slightly healthier laning phase, which, to be fair to Keen, he's done a great job in so far.
And there is a ton of physical damage on this squad, right? When you're looking at most of the physical damage, you know, is obviously going to be, there's Lee Sin, the Scion's mostly physical, Urgot is almost all physical, right? You are expecting Kai'Sa to build more of an AP style of build because everyone else is doing so much physical damage, but anyone that would attack the Akali in the laning phase is going to be dealing that, so Seeker is certainly very efficient in that regard, and as you say, just trying to play it safe, making sure he doesn't go down from any potential ganks.
Flashels, though, after some good pressure in almost all their lanes, Mugen is going to try and start up this second Drake and take that one away from Afreeca. He had the very early cloud taken by Spirit, but it looks like this Ocean may do a nice job in kind of extending this lane phase here for Flashels. And again, no first blood has passed yet for 13 minutes. Betty is still farming up and keeping somewhat of a CS lead in bot lane. Like, again, the slow and steady style with this Ocean should fit Flashels just fine.
Yeah, it's certainly nice to grab, and especially if you do think you're going to have control around the bottom side of the map, well, just see what next Drake is going to be, right? Maybe an Infernal spawns. Maybe there's something there that you are going to be more happy to fight around, but for now, both teams definitely playing a very measured style of game. No one really willing to fully commit forward and try to look for a play. On Afreeca, it's very hard to do anything with that Stand United available, and Flashels are happy kind of just waiting.
And the big difference I feel from yesterday is we saw a lot of action in yesterday's games, especially from the Flashels as Bro.
That's going to be a flash, but here comes Maple chasing him with the ulti. Not going to quite grab the knockup as Spirit. Pop Predator, and he's going to run mid as the Death Laser is going to be channeled out by Vel'Koz. There's Mugen, though, finds a tag, and Sword Art's come in. They're going to try and make the play. Ragnarok is good, though, for Spirit. Avoids all that CC, and now is turning back around to try and chase, but cooldown's burnt, and still first blood is on the table.
So another skirmish happens around the middle lane. Kuro forced to burn both the summoner spells because he face-checked a brush and was not expecting to see a hungry Maple there, but now we see potential play in the bot.
Betty with the flash, supercharges out of there. Very nice play as he gets away from Tucson and Kramer returns.
Yeah, nicely handled. And as you say, I mean, Kuro had Spooky Ghost up, though. He could have actually just popped it a little bit earlier. I think he wanted to perhaps get some more range on that before he did drop it and walk straight into the Scion. It is a trade of 2 summoners for 1, but they also get the Stand United out and is a fairly long cooldown. You can see Sword Art is kind of prioritizing getting some early CDR with those Lucidity boots, so wants to be able to use that ultimate a bit more, but they may go for this now. Shroud is down.
Yeah, it is down there. Q-Tag is going to be good. Disdain is there. Looking for the ulti, and there it is. Hanabi going to grab himself first blood.
And Flash Wars finally find the kill that they've been looking for, and they get it onto Keen. It was such well executed after punishing Keen to utilizing the Shroud to try and get a bit of a favorable trade onto Hanabi, but now it will cost him his life and potentially first tower of the game.
Yeah, 4 members up here now for Flash Wolves. They pulled off the lane swap. You can see that Afreeca is trying to match it, and Flash Wolves not really pressing the issue too much just yet. They will be able to defend the turret, but a nice kill there. Well coordinated between Mugen and Hanabi there.
And the thing for Afreeca is they haven't really been pushing their vision that aggressively for most of the game. This top side of the map has been heavily in Flash Wall's vision control. We've seen Mugen controlling with the pressure that Maple's been generating, and Hanabi just doing what he can to bully Keen around. And as a result, we've seen multiple Mugen ganks come up towards the top side, but finally, 3rd time lucky, is able to pull it off, and they find that kill.
Well, Spirit is up here, so perhaps Betty and Sword Art will have to play back a little more. Maple did TP back to mid lane, so he's available with the ult almost being back off cooldown. A Spirit eats a quick Q there from the Scion, but things should all reset back down. Flashels do get the Rift Herald in that translation as well. As we move up towards the top lane, but let's check back in with our first blood presented by Acer Predator.
Yeah, and here it is one more time. The Shroud was just used before that, and then honestly, just a really nice combo there. The Fling Flash into a Lee Sin kick. The ultimate is already out there. Fear Beyond Death gets the execute, and they are happy about that one.
My favorite thing is that Soda celebrating all the way down
Yeah.
from the bot lane. He was nowhere near that kill.
Team support's job. You're the cheerleader.
And it was off the back of Muujin. He was instrumental in a lot of their early game playmaking yesterday. In fact, all of it, as you can see from the 100% kill participation at 15. You can see the goal difference as well. He was picking up a lot of those kills. And I think it's so impactful for Muujin. When we think back to at the beginning of this year, he was the replacement for Casa. It was Maple and Casa that were the duo for the Flash Wolves that everyone around the world knew about. And him coming into MSI had a fantastic performance. And now here on the world stage, he's maintaining a good performance once again.
Yeah, and it's really nice to see him performing so well internationally, because in the regional play, he was actually one of the guys who was having a harder time in the LMS this split. I do think that he dipped down a little bit in performance during the summer split, but he had an incredible performance at MSI. He looked really good yesterday, and again, off to another strong start here against Afreeca.
Herald channel top though. Flashers are going to try and grab the first turret of this game as well, but needed a little bit extra as the Afreeca Freecs try and CC Shelly up for enough time to take it down. They do nab that eye hit, and that will take it down. So still that extra gold of that first tower is on the table.
At this point in the game, I like to look back and see how the teams have played towards their win conditions. And so far, we haven't really seen a huge amount of skirmishing from the side of Afreeca Freecs. We've seen Keen kind of left on an island to fend for himself, and now he's fallen behind and his tower is at risk of going down. He may be able to trade it towards the bot side of the map, but in terms of early game playmaking and pressure, we haven't really seen a lot from the Afreeca Freecs so far.
And honestly, I think you have to credit a lot of that to the fact that Flash Wolves drafted two really tanky solo laners. They have a global on the bottom side of the map as well. They've played intelligently, pushed and back off on the bottom side. Like, they've just played a really smart game, not left a lot of openings there for Spirit, and as a result, Flash Wolves are in a fantastic spot going into the mid game.
Righteous Glory though for Maple was channeled as he looks to defend this mid turret. Afreeca Freecs have decided, you know what? Things are starting to fall a little behind in some of these situations, so let's just group up and try and plow through a turret. He did pick up bot outer as a trade after that Rift Tower play, but Flash was here trying to group and defend, but Afreeca Freecs, they want this turret. They will be able to take it though.
Honestly, very nicely done by Afreeca. They get two turrets off that, despite the fact that Flash Wolves had the Rift Herald, had more pressure on the top side of the map. Flash Wolves honestly kind of responded to that mid lane turret pretty slowly. They were over multiple members doing that red buff, and very slow to react to that play. We also have to remember, despite the fact that Flash Wolves is so ridiculously tanky, there is a tremendous amount of true damage that can come out from the Vel'Koz with the passive and the ultimate coming through. So if Kuro is really well positioned in a fight, you can shred through these tanks.
And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to, how these team fights will play out, because Afreeca's comp is not conventional, it's not meta in the same sense that we often see, and when you kind of look at this, you're expecting more of a split push style, right? I was expecting the bot lane to kind of have an early lead, I was expecting them to try and rotate around the map.
Oh, Tusi may be caught.
Gonna get tagged again. Muujin looking to keep that 100% KP up and going. There's Betty gonna charge him with a killer instinct after the kick, and he swoops in for an easy one.
And Flash Wolves find themselves another kill, and it's Flash Wolves that have the pressure. Note how mid has been pushed up. Top lane is in their control, and because they have the map in their favor, they're the ones being able to move into the enemy jungle, and Afreeca Freecs, they don't respect that.
And I love how they recognize Tuzin is a guaranteed kill. They donate that over to Betty, get the Kaisa going, and he is going to be going for that AP build, working towards his Nashers, and certainly is going to be a really big threat. The potential to dive and have that Shen backing him up with a massive amount of shielding, and also, as you said earlier, just playing front to back.
Yeah, because they have such a solid front line with Shen, they have the Scion, they have the Urgot, but double Righteous Glory is now in the form of Flash Wolves, and here you can see, just look at the minimap as well. Maple has mid pushed up, the top lane is pushed in their favor as well, and as Tusin, you're not allowed to be in this position. You don't have the control over the map to be able to ward that part. It's not your turn, and as a result, Flash Wolves very quickly find themselves ahead.
Yeah, and that's a situation where you really need to have Spirit there with you and be going as a squad. You can, have him perhaps face checking forward, using that ultimate potentially to retreat if they do need to do so. And this is a fairly squishy Gragas. Yes, he has a little bit of armor from Glacial Augment, but this is a Spell Thieves Gragas
Level
with Lucidity
9 as well.
boots. Like, he's built 0 HP whatsoever. He's a squishy boy.
And I kind of love what Flash Wolves have done as a team as they've developed. Like, we thought for a while, you mentioned already, Maple and Castle were the two guys that always got work done for the Flash Wolves. And now it's Muujin and Betty.
Yep.
Betty's now been with the team for quite a while, but Muujin is one of the new kids on the block for this squad, and they are the people that, again, getting the gold, being allowed to make early plays and apply that pressure. And to see someone like Maple go from LeBlanc to double Sion games in a row, it warms my heart because this is a team that's clearly willing to. Yes and no, given how much I love Maple's Assassin play. But it is great to see how this team is willing to evolve and advance as they try and make this play once again on a big stage.
But also for Afreeca Freecs, coming into this year, before that, they had 4 splits back-to-back where they finished in 5th place. They then brought in Keen this year, and the team had their best competitive year to date. This was the guy that really revolutionized the team. He got them to the final in spring, 3rd place in summer, and due to that, they qualified to Worlds as the 2nd seed. And so far, I know it's only our 2nd game. You can't base all your opinion on that, but I'm yet to see him really have an impact. We saw him on the Akali. We're still waiting for that, and there's still opportunities for him to be that playmaker and help his team to get to that point. But Afreeca, they're the ones losing control of the map. They're the ones at a goal deficit right now. And this just feels like Flash Wolves are setting themselves up for success.
Comes Maple again. He's going to miss that slow, but Spirit going to charge his way back through. The Twin Shutters was popped. Maple does take a quick hit, but Flash was able to pretty easily walk away from that one.
Yeah, Afreeca able to survive, certainly, but a little bit concerning. We saw this skirmish in the 1v1 on the bottom side of the map, and Keen forced to use the ultimate in retreat in the straight-up 1v1. Was a little bit worried. I think that a roam could have been coming down, but if that side lane is starting to really go bad for them, you're left with only really playmaking, you're left with 5v5, and that is going to be very hard for them to pull off. So I really do think that Afreeca need to concentrate on controlling vision, because you need to be able to have some sort of a flank or a surprise engage from the Gragas, from the Akali, I think, to really be able to dismantle a team like this. If you are walking at each other in full vision, I don't see Afreeca winning a 5v5.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Azir. We were talking yesterday a lot about the potential of a Gragas and how even if you're behind, his ulti can just change the landscape of how a fight is played out. And even if you have this front line, if it gets knocked to the other side of mid lane and then the AD carry is right in front of you, you can still win that fight. So I'm still looking at this Gragas and the positioning of Keen. If when these team fights come about, are they able to get onto Betty? Are they able to kill him? Because if he's dead, the damage dramatically falls off the plan. And
I'm also going to be really interested to see if they even feel that they need to knock it into Kai'Sa, because there is also that other option of trying to just split it up.
Yes.
Where you knock back the Kai'Sa, knock forward the front line. Vel'Koz and Xayah are just bursting down these tanks, and then 100%. If your front line's gone, well, all of a sudden, how does Kai'Sa move forward? So there are certainly those options, but a clubbed engage from Tucson feels like it's going to dispel a disastrous fight for Afreeca.
Spirit does have his ulti and flash, but Betty is going to throw some shots in. Thought did look for the taunt, but didn't quite connect it as Flash Wolves are trying to assault this mid turret. This is kind of the big one they're missing, as both teams are currently at 2 turrets looking for their 3rd. Afreeca Freecs already took mid after that counter push post Rift Herald play, but Flash Wolves still looking for a little more room to play around with.
Honestly, the more I think about the Flash Wolves draft, the more I like it. I just think it's actually so hard to attack, and not only are you kind of left with this one option of Kai'Sa to really try to dive onto as the Akali and as the Gragas, but Kai'Sa builds defensive itemization better than really any other marksman. You can go easily for the Banshee's Veil, you can follow that up with the Zhonya's, and, well, good luck actually killing this guy through the Kai'Sa ultimate, through Stand United, past all these frontliners, and that defensive itemization is just, I think, a really, really smart, well-rounded draft.
And to just make matters worse, imagine as Akali getting onto Kai'Sa, and before you even try to get through the shields, you get kicked in the face by Moosh and he just sends you flying back, right? Like, there's so many disengage tools that I'm struggling to see how Afreeca are able to win out on these fights, and that's kind of why,
the big eye laser.
I'm going, I mean, that's the big thing, right? I'm kind of looking and just how do Afreeca do it? Because I'm not entirely sure, and I don't want to make any clear-cut ideas of the best way to pull it off. All I do know is that Afreeca right now is steadily losing more and more control over the rest of the map. And while they do still have this mid lane turret, they have a lot of wave clear. With Kuro, they can buy time, they can stall things out. Is that necessarily the best option when this Kai'Sa is about to hit her 3rd eye?
And look, they do have avenues into this game for sure. I think the big worry is that from what we saw yesterday, will the Afreeca Freecs just kind of slowly lose the game, which was kind of what happened yesterday when T2 played against them. So for me, it's not about what can they do, because I know they can do plenty as a team, both with their competition and individually as players. But if they continue to show a very passive style, which was not what we expected, and drop this game as well, that's when we maybe start worrying about Afreeca's form this tournament.
And we do also have to talk about the fact that Kramer is nearing his IE. He's working towards his 3rd item there. Is going to have a tremendous amount of damage onto the frontline tanks. We know that Kuro is playing a champion who really can shred through those frontliners as well. So definitely is a lot of potential there, but I do think the value of especially a pick like the Olaf really starts to go down and down and down as you get further and further into these fights.
Gearing up for a fight around this Draco, potentially. Hanabi in the middle of the team could be in a little bit of trouble, but he's going to tank up a decent amount so far. Turret dead top as Keen is still pushing, and Hanabi is able to get out relatively safely. Maple, though, forced to burn the ulti as Kuro's knock-up was threatening to maybe take him down, but Maple does burn the cooldown and get out safely.
But you see how Afreeca caught out 2 of the tanks, yet we're only able to take off 50% of their HP. Keen is still sitting in the top.
Ooh, nice from Spirit. Steals away the Mountain Drake.
All right, so he shouldn't have been allowed to do that. Big misplay there from Flash Wolves, allowing Spirit to literally walk up, smite, and then walk out. Now they actually have priority over mid lane, so Afreeca, they're going to continue pushing towards this tower.
I mean, that was a 4v5. Keen was topside, and they just allowed Spirit just kind of wander in and take that away. Now they're going to be able to grab the blue buff. They push up the side wave, so it really did turn out fairly well there for Afreeca. Not the biggest deal grabbing over on that dragon. It's not an Infernal, and I don't think it's really going to be game deciding at this point, but certainly felt mismanaged by Flash Wolves there.
I think you've always got to remember about the Elder Dragon condition, right? Like, even if the Cloud and Mountain maybe not as team fight valuable, definitely continue to stack up and offer a lot more additional if you can get that big objective later on into the game. But yeah, so that was like a weird exchange, definitely, because
definitely weird.
Afreeca didn't want to fight because they had Keen top, and they were like, all right, if we just allow him to keep pushing.
But what if I just walk up to the dragon and smite it and then walk away?
Just like, I think no one's gonna. All right, I'll take this and then I will walk away.
He didn't even use ulti, but he's had it ready to go in case they jumped him.
And the thing about the Flash was, I think they assumed that they had secured it because Maple was like, okay, I drew a lot of their ultis, like he backed off, and then you saw Hanabi backing away as well because he wanted to catch the top wave and he was at 50% HP. So I think Flash was just dropped their focus there for a second. They kind of misread the situation in the map, but overall, it is only a Mountain Drake. Nobody ended up dying. Very few summoners were burnt. I think the Flash was used by Kuro in the end, but everyone still has everything up. No big team fights have happened yet. This has arguably been one of our slowest games of the World Championship so far.
Yeah, it certainly has. And to Flash Wolves' credit, perhaps they were worried about TP wards, Keen looking for a flank or something like that. But either way, back to normalcy in the game. We are pretty much, all intents and purposes, dead even. We do see a third item coming through for the Kaisa. And is picking up another Null Magic Mantle, so this could be a QSS, but it also could just be straight up going for a Maw. Maw is actually very, very good against both the Akali and the Vel'Koz, who are likely not going to land any CC or anything like that on you. It's going to be much more just about straight raw magic damage coming through. It's unlikely that we see Kramer actually getting in range of Betty to auto-attack him very often in these fights, so going for a double MR stacking, I think it does make a lot of sense here for Betty.
Well, as the carries are gearing up, we've got Kaisa on 3 items, Akali also on 3 on the Afreeca Freecs side, and the tanks for Flash Wolves also at that point right now. Surely, something is going to happen soon. If it is, though, it's probably going to be around this Baron. Flash Wolves still need to take down this mid turret, which Kuro is doing a very good job of gatekeeping. But they are around there trying to get that vision. We'll see if something starts brewing.
Now, Flash Wolves can very easily start Baron because they have 2 tanks that can just soak up the damage. And they can just play around this objective for a really long time. At the very least, they can force a teleport out from Keen. And you can see Hanabi, he pushed out bot. He's now grouped up with the team. And because they have priority, they should be able to just start this one off and at the very least force Afreeca to react.
Sordo actually walking forward, does ward the red buff here, but sees Spirit, doesn't cost him too much, so as people are going to get looked out. Flash was doing a good job getting all their vision and actually going to move Betty to the top side briefly, try and get something started as Keen is going to try and make a play. Pops the Gunblade onto Maple, but just kind of zips out of there. Cool harass pattern, but didn't do that much.
He has little to no magic resistance, and the same can be said for Hanabi. And it's surprising, like they've literally said, okay, the only one we have to worry about is Kramer because Keen is going to try and kill Betty, not us. And so they've just itemized full armor and they just said, right, we're fine. And I don't know if that's the best decision against a Vel'Koz. Like, you could argue that because he does true damage, maybe you just stack as much health as possible.
But still, a massive portion of your damage is not true damage, right?
Exactly.
I do agree that they need to pick up some MR, and even if it is just for that Vel'Koz, I think just HP is enough to deal with the Akali, because Akali can't afford to just focus a Scion down on the fight when the Kaisa is free, but certainly I think you have to worry a little bit about the Vel'Koz. Obviously, Stoneplate can help to deal with that.
Sure.
You're going to see Stoneplates pop. Both these tanks also have shields that can help, in coordination with that Stoneplate to absorb the Vel'Koz ultimate. So I think for now, they're just kind of relying on that, and the fact that they'll be able to pressure Kramer so heavily and moving forward towards Kuro that he may not be able to actually get enough damage out, because you always have to kind of talk about uptime and how much freedom these guys actually have to do their damage in a fight. And if Kuro is untouched, maybe he can shred through.
Yeah.
But if they're constantly moving towards him and there's always threat, he may not find that perfect ultimate.
We do see that Kramer has also finished that Infinity Edge, so as far as trying to kill the frontliners, this is one of the better spots that Afreeca Freecs will find themselves in this game that has dragged on very long, almost at 32 minutes. And no Baron has been taken just yet. In fact, there's only 5 towers total between these two teams that have been taken.
Oh, here we go.
Play from Tucson, going to try and knock one in. That's Mugen that they grab. He's already pretty low. He is going to fall after that stopwatch. And
They're
now
going to
Afreeca
Baron.
That's massive. That is such a massive pick. They just killed Mugen. Flash Rolls, they didn't try to force the Baron earlier, and now Afreeca Freecs, they're in a position to start this objective off. They have full vision control around the topside river, and they have the top wave pushing in their favor.
You have to say, though, Flash Rolls still do have potential to hold this off in the 4v5. Afreeca don't have any super tanks to really hold the Baron for a really long time, so they do have to be worried about that. We'll see if they're going to start it up. I think they should.
I like this from Sword Art, though, taking a sneaky path around, trying to get what vision he can. Betty is consistently throwing W's
There
in.
they go.
Does spot Kramer and now knows they are on the Baron official. Flashwell's going to have to mount a defense here in a 4v5 as Sword Art does taunt Tucson. Betty looking for a way into this team fight, but from the brush, Keen again is going to try and make the play. This is Volkov's over the front liners are so tanky as Betty is going to get San United as Keen's forced into stasis. Betty does get the kill. That's Keen down as Flashwell will mount the defense. Betty with a double, going to make it a triple kill, and 4v5 Flashwolves defend.
And this is what we were talking about. The unkillable Betty runs rampant through the team of Afreeca Freecs. There's nothing that they can do to shut him down, and now it is Flash Wolves that have priority on the Baron.
They're going to take this Baron straight up. Spirit, no flash, no ult, no chance to steal this one, and Betty's positioning in that fight was perfect. He played it out so damn well. Afreeca could not get enough damage onto the Kai'Sa to really ever threaten him, and once that threat started to fall down, all hell broke loose for Afreeca.
And we talk so much about the differences in the two team compositions and how what Flash Wolves want is just to play around their front line and keep your eyes on Betty during this fight. They try to dive onto him. The interrupt immediately comes onto Keenan. He loses half his HP before the fight even starts. Betty has the Shen ultimate, he has the heal as well, and Keen offers no threat to the backline while the rest of Afreeca Freecs can't even dent this front line.
Yeah, Betty enters the fight with frontliners on both sides. He is never the closest person to them, retreats back into that choke. So then Afreeca has to fight through 3 or 4 of these frontliners just clogging up that area. He's able to free fire and just shred them down, and he is massive now, completing a full Merc Scimitar there, 4-0.
I just want to make it absolutely clear, those are all separate instances of Sword Art celebrating after something fun happens. But Flash Rolls certainly reason to celebrate now.
Yeah.
They have Baron, they have a massive goal lead. This stubborn mid outer turret will very soon be filled. And Afreeca Freecs, they tried something and it did not work.
But also remember what this means for the group. You only get to play each team twice, and Flash Wolves, having already had a dominant game one, could put themselves to 2-0 in the group and will take the lead in what has been a rather competitive Group A as Flash Wolves look for another pick.
Maple looking to dive here onto Keen. He has been picked on all game, it feels like. Flash Wolves, though, just doing the rest of the work. We're just pushing the minions in towards the Tier 2 turret. Hanabi is left to try and get this worked out in the mid lane, but Flash Wolves, they have bigger things on their mind as they're looking to move towards these inhibitors.
Yeah, pushing up the waves. They want to try to keep collecting this gold. Crow obviously does have a tremendous amount of wave clear, though, and they are doing a good job keeping this pretty safe. They need to actually threaten the Vel'Koz to make him back off, and they have fairly effectively done this. So Afreeca will be having to seed this outer turret here, but has to feel like Afreeca needs to be able to make some sort of a play. They need to be able to get some sort of a pick because it's been this slow burn for Flash Wolves the whole game long, and they really have been in control.
They certainly have. And now with the Baron, they're just grouping up, slowly working their way towards the base of Afreeca. Fortunately for them, I feel like they could, to a degree, go for a dive, but there's always that gamble that if you overcommit, that's the easiest way for the enemy team to turn it back over. But they're not playing multiple lanes right now. They're just kind of grouping up, and that's one of the awkward situations for them because there's still a lot of wave clear from Kuro on this Vel'Koz.
But honestly, this is the way they played the game the whole time. They played very slow, very patient. Yes. And I don't think they're feeling any pressure to speed up the pace of the game. They're feeling that, hey, we are in full control. It just gets better for us with more and more items, more and more protection for our marksmen.
I mean, they just won a 4v5 around Baron with no jungler. So you have to think the confidence
Who needs a Lee Sin anyway?
Pretty high for the Flash Wolves as they take down
smite now.
Even more turrets. That's 5-3. They do take down a few more. Still mid-tier 2 to collect. Baron is running out in 30 seconds, so the Flash Wolves likely not to get too much done, but there is a Cloud Drake for them to take to trigger the spawn of Elder and reduce the value that Afreeca Freecs' potential future Elder could hold. But for now, they're going to take the last of their Baron buff and try and knock down this 6th turret.
Flash Wolves are hunting. They see the prey in their eyes. They're going for the dive.
Dive is brewing. Kramer likely to target this. Hanabi going to charge in as Curry gets flipped back around. Betty! He's back in there, but Keen's actually doing a decent job zoning him away. The Stand United Bird to try and defend his Flash Wolves. Maybe going a little too far with Hanabi. He gets the first kill on Takuro, but there's actually the counter kill there for Kramer. This is able to grab the shutdown. The turret will fall. But it's only one apiece here. Afreeca Freecs get out pretty decently there.
Yeah, a bit of a messy dive there from Flash Wolves. Spirit's so close to going down, so was Tucson, but Flash Wolves, it is a trade of kills. They do still get that turret, so not coming out too much the worse for wear there.
Initially, the focus was put down onto Kuro, and he used a very clutch stopwatch to just buy enough time. And one of the risks that they had was that it kind of left Betty exposed. You'll see that this wasn't the same way in which the fight was played before, because the front line kind of separates itself from Betty, and you'll see that he dives in, and that kind of puts him very close towards Keen, while Swordart is tanking the tower this entire time, so he's not using any of the utility from Shen, while Maple and Hanabi are just in between 2 towers. So yes, you're tanky, but when all 4 members are focusing you and your AD carry gets zoned away by the Akali, it's not going to be a fight that goes cleanly in your favor. So that's kind of a better situation for Afreeca, but they still ended up losing their tower, and Flash Wolves is still coming out on top.
Yeah, and it's honestly kind of concerning when they can go for a 5v5 straight up under the turret in your face like that. Betty is basically zoned completely, and it's a trade and you lose your turret, right? Like, it becomes very hard to see how they are really going to win these 5v5s as we get further and further into the game. You know, Spirit and Tucson were a stiff breeze away from going down as well, and that could have spelled the end of the game had they been able to pick up another kill or two.
Well, I'll echo the same thing. My worry for Afreeca is that the very few situations they are opting themselves into are not going particularly well. And for a team that, again, was, even for a slow region, one of the more proactive and creative teams that we've seen, to just kind of let Flash Wolves take over a game like this, something that, again, as these other teams kind of look to this group thinking Afreeca maybe 1 or 2 in this group, now they may be thinking, you know what, this actually may be a little easier than we thought.
Yeah, certainly possible, but credit to Flash Wolves for playing such an excellent game. And Zonia's is now completed, triple defensive items on the Kaisa. We talked a bit about how well this champion itemizes defensively, and there is a ton of protection for him as well. You can see Swordart has picked up a Locket as well as a Redemption. They have a Knight's Vow for him, I do believe, as well, somewhere in there. Perhaps, yeah, it is on the Lee Sin. So, you know, there's so much protection for him that it's like, you know, you look at his health, and then you basically have to add 2,000 to 3,000 additional to just get through all the extra shielding and protection that's going to be on it.
It's tough for one Akali to try and get through that all.
Now, the Baron spawns in about a minute's time. That's what Flash Wolves are waiting for. You can see them setting up the waves, but they haven't invested into the vision yet. And one of the problems that you have when you get this late into the game is item slots become scarce, and you'll know that the number of control wards available for the Flash Wolves is much more limited to what it was before. Now, I'm very disappointed in Mujin that he hasn't sold that empty stopwatch in favor of control wards right now, because the junglers are really important when it comes to vision. Like, all your late game damage, all your tanky front lines, like, they're tanky enough. So I'd like to see Flash Wolves investing a little bit more in those control wards, because if you want to secure a Baron this late into the game, vision is extremely important.
I definitely agree. I think he really just wants to finish that GA and then, you know, be able to perhaps trade out his life for a kick onto Kuro or something along those lines. And maybe he will be able to get that soon. But either way, for now, yeah, vision definitely limited across the board on the side of Flash Wolves.
They have picked up a couple of wards now, but now they're collapsing onto Keen.
This just keeps happening. Maple pops the righteous score, charges in. Keen already taking a little too much damage. There's no real carry here. There's 3 people gank him. Oh
my
Betty.
God, that did so much damage.
Yeah,
that was Betty.
That was the passive proc into the, I want to say it was the W that hit him.
Yeah, it was.
And then obviously it's AP Kaiser as well, and that ability scales extremely well with AP. And now with Keen dead, Flash was like, oh, shall we begin the Baron?
Makes more sense. I saw a purple champion who was stacked on 2 tanks, and I thought it was Swordart. Was Betty, though? So
like, wow,
like
Keen got some damage.
Yeah, I was like, what is happening?
What are they doing with this balance?
How many Dark Harvest stacks has Mujin collected in a 40-minute game to lead to this all? But Keen being dead means that 5v4. This time for the Flash Wolves around the Baron. Let's see if Afreeca Freecs have the same miracle in their back pocket.
All right, it's all on Spirit. He has the Blast Cone, he has ult, he has Flash. This is it.
He's getting zoned by Hanabi. Oh, Hanabi goes a little too far forward. Spirit in the pit. He's going to try and take it down, but he's going to get shot to pieces by Betty. Before that can be a reality, Baron goes down. Flash Wolves collect it all.
Flash Wolves just too clean on the Baron take. They stop at just under 3K on the Baron, so no chance for Spirit to be able to focus it down before they can take out the Olaf. And Flash Wolves feel like they're just minutes away from closing out this game.
Exactly that, Azael. They have the Baron buff. Look at the death timer on Spirit. That is another 30 seconds before Afreeca will have their full lineup available. And here comes Maple.
Maple charging in, basically displaying zone control, but he does pop Kuro Betty. Killer Instinct, aptly named as he smashes down the Vel'Koz. And now Kramer retreats to the fountain and still gets obliterated as Betty goes godlike.
And Flash Wolves melt through Afreeca once again. The Nexus is in their eyes, and they're looking to top the group.
It's been cool, calm, collected, but most importantly, dominating as Mugen just misses the flash kick onto Cade. But the Nexus turrets will get shredded down. Sword Art will land the final taunt to give Flash Wolves the ace, and they will smash Afreeca in this late game.
Just honestly picked Afreeca apart from the draft throughout the entire game. Flash Wolves really maintained full control, 8-0-2 on the Kai'Sa for Betty. Never really felt like he was threatened at all in those team fights. Didn't really get close to going down whatsoever. And Afreeca was just absolutely dominated, starting out 0-2 in what was meant to be their group.
Yeah, Flash Wolves now sitting at the top of their group. They may be tied with G2 depending on how the next game goes, but this is looking like a very different group from what many expected and how things to play out, especially when you think it was you who was saying, Azael, 2 years ago, this team went 2-4 in their group. Last year, they went 1-5 in a group that had the 3rd seed Chinese team, the 2nd seed European team, the 1st seed North American team, and it was just a matter of Flash Wolves at Worlds have not shown any up for a while, but they're here to play, they're looking strong, and right now, I can't wait to see